Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report. Today I'm putting real context on a veteran name that keeps resurfacing around the deadline, explaining what it actually means for our window, our cap sanity, and the way Brad Holmes can play the board in the next 48 hours. I'll walk you through what I'm hearing about availability, the money, how top teams are repositioning their QB rooms, how that ripples into the NFC playoff picture, and where the Lions benefit by staying disciplined. I'm saving the headline for later. Ride with me and you'll hear it when the timing matters most. I start from Detroit because that's the only compass that counts. Our identity is continuity at the premium spots and violence in the trenches. Jared Goff is locked in, protected by the best right tackle in football and throwing to a core that can beat you on choice routes, crossers, and sudden verticals when defenses overplay the run. The front office already paid its pillars, and that telegraphs the plan. Avoid panic shopping, let the market come to you, and spend capital only when the upgrade is undeniable. That's why everything I'm about to outline has to be measured against one reality. This team doesn't need a savior at quarterback. It needs to keep tightening the screws around a proven one. Zoom out to the league and the tone is different. A handful of teams woke up this week realizing their QB plan for 2025 looked good on the whiteboard and flimsy on the grass. A couple of AFC teams got smacked by injuries. A few NFC hopefuls learned the hard way that scheming around inconsistency is a full-time job. That's the recipe for deadline theater, and it's exactly when veteran names sneak back into conversations. Not as franchise answers, but as stabilizers, as keep the plane in the air pilots for November and December. You can feel the calls happening because the tells are on the transaction wire, and the insiders who rarely agree suddenly echo the same few destinations. Here's where it touches Detroit without pulling us off our axis. When a veteran quarterback becomes available at a controllable number, it tends to pull desperate clubs out of bigger, pricier chases. That's oxygen for a contender like us. If one of the Raiders or Saints parks on a low-risk vet, that's one less team muddying the water for the premium positions we actually care about. Corner help, rotational edge, interior depth behind Alim, or even a special teams ace who can swing a field in January. The league only has so many buyers at once. Siphon a couple toward a quarterback stopgap, and the bidding on our real targets cools just enough to make a smart deal doable. Before the reveal, let me frame the timing and math. That's what really moves phones. The deadline is firm, and with a hard 4 p.m. ET cutoff, cap managers are modeling real-time pro-rations. Veteran base salaries that look like nothing in August become downright attractive in Week 9. And when the tape says spot, starter, or QB2 instead of system, lifter, the compensation follows, late-day picks, conditions tied to snap counts. Cash offsets negotiated in hours, not days. This is where good front offices separate patience from passivity. They wait for the market to blink. Then they strike on needs that actually matter. Now the headline, at the exact moment it's useful. The veteran name drawing fresh attention is Russell Wilson of the New York Giants. Available at a trade-friendly base number and evaluated by multiple analysts as a number 2 with specific third-level strengths and reduced out-of-structure creation. He's made a handful of starts this year with efficiency markers that tell you exactly what he is in 2025, still capable of layering deep outs and posts when the protection is clean. Not the off-script escape artist of a few years ago, and priced accordingly. Some around the league peg his trade odds as modest. But the fits being floated, think teams like the Raiders or Saints, signal how front offices view him now. A stabilizer for a locker room that wants a clean operation, not a ceiling play. What does that do for Detroit? First, it keeps our own plan pure. Holmes and Campbell have been crystal on this. If you already paid the franchise quarterback and the locker room believes in him, you don't jam the room with a name for the marquee. You target complementary wins, a boundary corner who can press on third down, a nose who can eat a double without ceding a yard, a pass rush package piece who wins on 3rd and 7 with his first step, a gunner who flips hidden yards in a cold-weather game in January. That's how you increase Goff's margin for error without pretending he needs competition. Moves like Wilson to a QB-needy club actually help us because they unclog other markets and redirect draft pick budgets. Second, it reframes leverage. If Las Vegas or New Orleans grabs a veteran on a tiny base and lives in competence mode, they're no longer chasing the same corners and edges we'd be calling about. That subtle shift makes a seller a little easier on the phone when the Lions ring about a rotational defensive tackle or a nickel with ball skills. And the money matters. A $1-2 million base is a rounding error for most cap sheets this time of year, but it's a lifeline for teams that were about to overpay for a Band-Aid. The moment a QB stopgap gets snatched, the musical chairs stop and the other position markets breathe. Third, it clarifies our own QB depth logic. With Goff entrenched and the backup role handled by a veteran who knows his assignment on Sundays, the Lions don't need to wander into noise moves. Quarterback is where you buy certainty, not headlines. Detroit's pitch to the locker room is consistency. The same cadence in the huddle, the same footprint in the pocket, the same timing on the quick game. Nothing about a late October veteran splash improves that. It only muddies the roles. That's why, even as other clubs poke around the Giants' room, Detroit's best play is to let the currents move everyone else. Let me slice the tape piece because it matters to the analysis. The version of Wilson on film this season still drives the ball when the read is defined. He'll rip the sail or layer the deep over if his feet are set. And the safety rotation gives it, but the escapability that made 2 reads feel like 5 is diminished. Play calls shrink under pressure. Protection has to be clean. That profile makes sense for teams with elite defense and average QB play. It's less relevant to a contender with an established offense that thrives on timing and in-rhythm throws. Detroit isn't shopping for a floor. It's building on a ceiling. That's not shade. It's fit. If you're a Lions fan and you're thinking roster math, you're not wrong. The organization already invested in core pieces. The extension strategy was clear months ago. The byproduct is flexibility at the margins right now, not a license to burn picks. A veteran QB move elsewhere keeps those margins wide for us. This is how modern contenders act. Use the deadline to become slightly harder to beat in January, not to reinvent your identity in November. Every little edge stacks. One more drive extended because a slot corner fit the run, one more red zone snap because a punt died at the 4, one more third down stop because the 4-man rush got home by a half step. That's Detroit football. So here's my read, clean and direct. The Wilson chatter is real enough to shape markets, not real enough to tilt ours. If a club in the AFC West or the NFC South wants a veteran adult in the room at a cheap number, that's a domino that benefits Detroit without costing Detroit. We monitor it, we let it draw bidders away from our lanes, and we keep calling on corners, interior line help, and special teams difference makers. That's how a grown-up operation handles the deadline when your franchise quarterback is already paid and playing winning football. Before I close, I want your voice on this because our community is sharp. Do you want the Lions to leverage any QB-driven market softening to chase a defensive piece, or pocket the picks and roll with internal answers into December? Drop your take below. I'll be in the comments all day. My bottom line is simple. Detroit stays the adult in the room, lets the league chase short-term stability at quarterback, and spends its capital where it actually moves playoff wins. If you're riding with that plan, tap subscribe, hit like, and keep notifications on. I'll keep you updated fast if the board shifts or a value deal pops that fits who we are.